Before the podcast started, you talked about we need grace for the children, but grace for the parents too. They need to have grace for themselves. Tell us a little bit more about that, because it does seem like this is just loaded with, like you said, parents thinking they're failing as parents, comparing to the child next door or whatever. Maybe you could speak into that for a minute. Just grace.
We are called to be good stewards of God's grace. And God gives us grace unconditionally and in so much abundance, right?
Mhm.
If he is just this wellspring of grace for his children, why should we not at least try to pass on that grace to our children? Why should we just not
Good.
try? We're
It's
going to
good.
fail, right? We're not God, but we're called to be good stewards of God's grace. And so to be able to just rest in the knowledge that God is going to continue to give us grace upon grace upon grace as we fall flat on our faces in this parenting, this challenging parenting journey, he gives us enough to pass on to our child. So we have to accept it for ourselves, and then we have to give it to our child. And I think that when we can just keep that in mind, like if we parent through that lens of grace for ourselves and for our child, I think it gets us through today.
That's so beautifully put. And I think maybe that's a really good kind of stepping off place for us, because that's one of the things that I know I can hear from your heart, that you want people to know there is grace to help in time of need. Embrace it and just rely on God to give you what you need for that next interaction, for that next step. And yes, let's have grace for each other, mom towards dad and dad towards mom, and obviously towards our kids too.
I want parents just to know that they're not alone. There are so many resources out there, so many people that are willing to help, who are trained to help. You know, sometimes we put this dichotomy in between faith and science, and it doesn't have
Mhm.
to be that way. Like every good and perfect gift comes from above. And I truly believe that knowledge that has come from research, right,
Yes.
is one of the gifts that God has given to us so that we can then figure out, okay, this is going to help us understand our child's brain, help us understand our child's behavior, so that it just strengthens our ability to care well for our child and for ourselves.